Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Gail Carson. Welcome to Living Regret Free, a program that shows you how to live a better and more joyful life. As an added bonus, I invite you to listen to an introduction to my Mindset Matters program, which ties into this so well. Go to www.sobmindset.com. It's free, and I know you will enjoy it. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at gailcarson13@gmail.com or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. My guest today is Joyce Maynard, and Joyce is the author of 16 books, including the novels To Die For and Labor Day, which were both adapted for film, and the best-selling memoir At Home in the World, translated into 17 languages. Her essays have appeared in dozens of publications and numerous collections. She's been a frequent performer with The Moth, a fellow of the MacDowell Colony, and Yaddo, and founder of the Lake I'm going to get this wrong again, Atitlin Writers Workshop. The Best of Us, a memoir, chronicles Maynard's whirlwind romance and marriage to her husband. Then, just after their one-year wedding anniversary, her new husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. During the 19 months that followed, as they battled his illness together, she discovered for the first time what it really meant to be a couple, to be a true partner, and to have one. Joyce Carol Oates writes, "The Best of Us is so candid, so deeply moving, so powerful, a testament to human resilience. Joyce Maynard is an unfathomably heroic person." Wow, Joyce, that's quite a testimonial to you.
I, I felt deeply grateful for that one, coming from a writer I've respected all my life.
Oh, yes, and what something to go through. And then to write about a personal experience like that has got to be, well, it's got to be cathartic, it's got to be sad, it's got to be happy, it's got to be all of that.
It is, and Gail, I've done this all my life. I have been telling my story. This is an appalling statistic now. For 50 years, I started publishing my essays in 17 magazine when I was 13 years old. So for me, it is the way I make sense of my experiences, to put them down and try to identify their meaning for me. And so as painful as it was to first watch my husband struggling and then to live through his dying, the one thing I could do at that moment was to write. I began writing The Best of Us the night Jim died, actually. I wanted to put it down while it was still all so fresh and intense for me. And of course it's cathartic, but I will add that nobody should have to, pay $20 for my catharsis. So I hope it's inspiring for other people too.
Well, I can understand what you went through, although I had a little different experience. I lost my husband almost 10 years ago, and I wasn't here when he died because I was always on the road. So I was in Dallas and he was in Miami, and I had talked to him at 10 o'clock at night. And he was the happiest he'd ever been. I mean, he asked me if I had been watching Dancing with the Stars, which was not his kind of show. His was football, but it was my kind of show. And I said, no, I had the radio shows to do, and I was trying to get dinner and get through email. And that was at 10 o'clock at night, and he was thrilled. And of course, I called at 7 in the morning because I called him 5 times a day, and I called 7, 7:15, 7:30, and no answer. I sent someone into the house, and of course, that's how they found him. But he died right after he spoke to me. So, it's not easy, even when you've been together a long time. And I can imagine what it was like within a 1-year period, and then to have to go through all that struggle. So, when you started writing about this, what kind of feelings did you have? What kind of emotions did you go through?
Well, in some ways, Gail, it was actually a very joyful experience because there's no way to write about the loss of a person without first saying who that person was and what you shared. So I lived through the very happy stages of me meeting Jim and falling in love with Jim, and our early, very romantic days, or what I thought then was romance, which was, my sort of movie idea of dancing and going out to dinner and, driving across the Golden Gate Bridge under the stars. My vision of romance, my definition changed. And of course, as I got closer to the end, closer to, what I knew would happen, although, there was a kind of crazy part of me that kept on wanting the endings to be different, it became very sad, but he was still with me. The hardest part really was having the book be over, because as long as I was writing it, he was there. He was with me. And it was my job to bring him to life.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that. But you've also...
And I should add... Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No.
I was going to add that there's no way to tell the story of two people who get together at the stage in life that we did. I was 57, he was 59. We'd been, divorced for almost 25 years at that point. Raised our children as single parents. There's no way to tell the story of our getting together without beginning before. So, who these two people were who sat down across from a table, across from each other on a Match.com date. So the story really begins with the life that I had before the life that I got.
So did you actually meet on a dating site?
We did. And I'm always really open about saying that, because I really want to inspire other people who might think that they're too old, or that, the time has passed for them to find a true partner, and to say, I don't think it ever is. If you're brave, if you're ready to risk your heart, which of course means risking loss too, the possibility of loss. You can't have the one without the other.
Well, I laugh because I always say the men my age are decrepit, and the ones that I think are my age are only 55 or 60, and they want the people who are 20 or 30. So I respect the fact that...
I've never thought of this idea that older women have less to offer. I think we have more to offer.
Oh, I do too. I do too. Although I have to tell you, I'm so happy by myself. I mean, I loved my husband and we had a wonderful life, but I can go and come and do what I want. He was always good about that. I mean, he was not someone he was ahead of his time. He never restricted me, but the way I live, it's easy for me to be alone with my two cats because I can come and go as I want. And it's really quite a nice life like that. But I
should say, I was that person myself when I married Jim, as you might know from the book. I was fiercely independent, and although I deeply missed having a partner, I didn't feel any need to be married when I met Jim. In fact, I was resistant to it. I had learned how to be alone, and I liked it. And my original picture of our marriage would be that I would continue to live my life as before, but with this very, handsome, charming, funny, devoted man picking me up at the airport and, taking me back again for the next trip. It was Jim really who had a different sense of what being a couple meant. It really took me until I saw that I was at risk of losing him to understand what that meant. I couldn't even say the word husband originally after we got married. I couldn't speak of myself as his wife. And then something shifted in me, and suddenly we had cancer and we were getting chemotherapy.
Interesting. And that does make a difference when you really care about somebody, and then you find because they're not adhering to your schedule of life, you might lose them. And so you change. But it also shows how much
I say at one point in the book, Gail, if only one could learn the lessons of cancer without cancer. And I don't believe, incidentally, that what I wrote, that the best of us is a cancer memoir. I think it's a love story at its core, and it's very much a book about marriage. But certainly cancer transformed my understanding of marriage.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm a 3-time breast cancer survivor. I've had 16 surgeries. However, my ending is different because I'm here, of course. However,
Yes.
yeah, it's what do we say? Life is a crapshoot, It really is. It really is. But you've had so much success, Joyce. I mean, how did you have your two novels, To Die For and Labor Day, be adapted for film? I mean, that's, I think, every writer's dream. How did that happen?
Well, I think I'd like to think it's because I tell really good stories, Dale, and I think that I tell stories that lend themselves to movies because I'm a pretty visual storyteller, and that's true of this one too. When I'm writing, I'm picturing a movie in my head, and I don't mean that I'm picturing some producer calling me up and optioning the movie rights. I mean that I want my reader to have an experience like going to a movie. And I try to create a little movie for you on the page. And yes, it was great the two times it's happened. And I think that most of my books are that way, but some of them have main characters who are older, which is were not perceived as, movie material. But my life's not over yet. I actually have another book that I'm developing for a film right now. That's my novel, Under the Influence, that came out right before Jim's death.
So, did you always know you wanted to be a writer? Was that what you started out to do?
Well, I tell that story in my other memoir, At Home in the World. I was raised by a mother who was a brilliant, gifted woman herself. But she was one of those wives and mothers of the 50s who couldn't get a job. And her career was me, really, and raising me to be a writer. So first of all, she was an extraordinary storyteller, and she taught me better than any teacher I ever had how to write and how to tell a story well. I loved listening to her storytelling. So I began, even before I could write, actually, I was giving dictation. She was writing down the stories I wrote and typing them up for me. So yes, I always wrote. I don't remember life without writing, except I should say the 19 months when Jim was sick, and I did not write. I barely wrote a word. But I think I always knew that I was going to write this book. Jim knew it too. Jim said at one point, someday you will tell this story, and he gave that his blessing.
Well, the ability to tell stories, whether it's in word or whether it's through spoken word, I mean, there is nothing, the adage is, you can give people a lot of facts, but what they're going to remember is a story about the fact if you really want to embed it in their mind. So that's a very key point. But you also...
It's my labor of love, actually.
Yeah.
Peak storytelling.
Yeah, it is. But it still takes a certain skill. It takes a certain skill, Joyce. I mean, it's just not... Some people can tell interesting stories and some people don't, But
well, I like to think that it's a learnable skill. I've seen it happen. When I host my writing workshops, they're not just for people who call themselves writers or who perceive themselves to be writers. I believe that we all have a story, and I know we do. I've seen it again and again. And I also believe that it's a really valuable thing, even if you never have any aspiration to become a writer or to publish a book, to put your story down. And there are ways, in fact, that I think a person can learn. I'm not sure that I could teach somebody how to be a great fiction writer, but I've seen again and again when I teach wonderful, powerful, moving stories coming out of people who never thought they were writers.
Wow. Well, there must be something you're doing to get your best-selling memoir, At Home in the World, translated into 17 languages. How does that happen, and what kind of a reception have you found for your work around the world? Are there certain countries you're more popular in?
Well, for some great reason, I'm very popular in France, Gail, and that means I get to go to Paris every year, so I'm not complaining about that one. And Home in the World, actually, was it was published almost 20 years ago, and at the time of its publication, you might remember this, it was a highly controversial book. It was a book that was almost universally condemned by critics because in it, although it was my story, I told the story an early relationship, the first relationship I had with a man.